for years we've been talking about Dr. Manmohan Singh's personal honesty and integrity, but the question is, does that hold up any longer as a result of the Prime Minister's inaction, whether it was with A. Raja earlier and now with these tainted ministers? Has the Prime Minister's image been irreparably damaged as a result of this inaction? Do tell us what you think. Joining us tonight on the program, we have Renuka Chaudhary, the spokesperson of the Congress Party and MP. We have Sudhanshu Trivedi, the BJP spokesperson, Mr. D. Raja, the National Secretary of the CPI. We have Kiran Bedi here in the studio with us, and our two commentators this evening, Mr. Bharat Bhushan and Ashok Malik. Renuka Chaudhary, let me ask you first. I know that Manish Tiwari has just said in the last few minutes that, look, let's wait. There is a CBI probe against Mr. Bansal. Let's see what comes out of that. There is a court hearing that is underway on the CBI's affidavit about Mr. Ashwini Kumar. Let's wait for that. But I'm sure you would admit that there is an issue of perception and propriety here. And at the moment, the perception is that these are two ministers who have a cloud over them, and the Prime Minister and Sonia Gandhi are reluctant to let them go. And that is really, really hurting the image, not just of the PM, but of the UPA.
You know, it's very unfortunate, Nidhi, that it is perceived that way. You're right, we are battling perceptions. But on the other hand, I mean, everyone is intelligent enough to understand that we don't have the luxury of being in the opposition and baying for someone's blood. That we have to do due diligence. We need to complete a procedure. There has to be the principles of natural justice where we ask and we examine, and only then we can come to certain conclusions. We cannot run a campaign for television channels. We cannot run a campaign because the opposition wants it. We cannot run a campaign simply because we want to. We have to speak with the people. We must come to certain conclusions. We must be able to tell ourselves that we did the right thing, and that they got fair justice this way or that way, that the issue has been addressed in all its dimensions. Beyond that, there is absolutely no tolerance. You know that very well. Mrs. Sonia Gandhi has never accepted any kind of question marks on anyone, and this has been something that we have always adhered to.
But
if at all there is a political party, it is only the Congress
but
who
let's
can
look at
say.
the UPA government's own past. In the past few years, you had a minister like Shashi Tharoor who stepped down when there was a whiff of an allegation against him. Former Foreign Minister Natwar Singh also had allegations, you know, and based on that had to step down. In this case, these many would say are far more serious allegations. In the Law Minister's case, you have a CBI affidavit which is in court that completely shows a conflict of interest, and there are issues of propriety that have come forth. So why is there this reluctance to let go of these ministers? Because the perception is, because you would agree that politics is a battle of perception, the perception is they're the Prime Minister's men and they are shielding the PM.
I have to tell you this, that there is no reluctance or no acceptance or any such thing. Unfortunately, this got into a court issue. The issues are sub judice, and we cannot preempt the courts. I'm sure you appreciate that we don't have the luxury to preempt what the court has to say. And hence, and since the session was, or parliamentary session was on, there were several issues that needed to be addressed, and that is what is being done. There is an ongoing process, and I'm very, very sure that the right thing will be done.
Okay, that's what you're saying. Let me take this to Sudhanshu Trivedi of the BJP. Mr. Trivedi, the Congress's argument is that, wait, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Is there a rush to ask and demand for resignations until there is clear evidence against ministers? Are we jumping the gun and asking for everyone to step down when there is even a whiff of an allegation? Does that set a bad precedent? How would you respond to that?
I would like to say that Congress usually harped on the same issue, that let the process complete, and then after the elaborate discussions and the completion of the process, the things will come out. But I would like to give an example. What happened in the 2G case? When we were demanding for JPC, they were said that no, JPC should not be there. Then there will be only PSC. But do you remember what happened in the PSC? In what manner the final report of the PSC was sabotaged? This was the process which they were saying that let the process complete? And I would also like to remind that Prime Minister had said that he is ready to come before the PSC, when technically it is not possible. When it came to the issue of JPC, that the Prime Minister should come, Then Prime Minister refused. It means they were not having any clear intention of getting any process done in a proper manner, rather than they were making an alibi of that. Now the second point comes when the matter is sub judice. You yourself have seen that the manner in which this judicial matter was being infringed, or it was tried to be influenced, it is ample clear evidence that whatever they are saying, that let the process complete, before that nobody should be found guilty, but in between they were trying to subvert the process, infringe the process to cover up the corrupt people. That's why we are against it, and we are saying that we will not accept when ample evidences are there in the last 3-4 years. I am saying 3-4 years. Then for how long the country can afford to say that all these institutions are perverted, and we keep on waiting on the technical issue?
Yes, Renuka.
You know, I want to ask the BJP, I mean, is it political naivete or is it political ignorance that they speak this way? Now, here, they're talking about the JPC. This party has held up systems all the time. You did not allow parliamentary functions to carry on. They do not believe in parliamentary democracy. They said they will boycott the speaker's meetings. They said they will not discuss with parliamentary affairs minister. They want the Prime Minister to resign. They want Parliament to be closed. Is this why they were voted to come to Parliament? Now, having said all of that, they do not want discussions. Are we supposed to have knee-jerk reactions to whatever their demands are when their own conduct is not above board? This is what they need to address an issue. They don't want important bills to come. They don't want to feed pregnant mothers across the country under the food security bill. They don't want to feed 67% of the population. They do not want to bring in the land acquisition bill, which would help crores of farmers across the country. I mean, these are game changers, and they know that, and that's why they do not want it.
Okay, one moment. Let me get the other panelists
They
in
don't
here.
want the Congress to
Kiran
be seen
Bedi,
in any good light.
Okay, Kiran Bedi, are these knee-jerk reactions, as the Congress says, or is there a serious issue of impropriety when it comes to both Mr. Bansal and Mr. Ashwani Kumar that needs to be addressed now?
There is a procedure.
Absolute serious improprieties have already happened. It couldn't be worse than this. It's just a matter of sensitivity or survival. I think they become insensitive to public perception, because if they would go by public perception, then 96 out of 100 people are saying improprieties have. I've been on television channels where they did these polls. 96 out of 100 people are saying these two must go because of illegalities and improprieties they've committed. Supreme Court has very clearly and subtly given the messages. You don't want to take it, it's your choice. Mr. Bansal is under very serious investigation. You just have to spend 2 days in Chandigarh and you'll know the amount of evidence which is lying around, which never got exposed. So the point is CBI is unearthing it. And by the way, do you know Ranjit Sinha, who's the current director of CBI, has been Director General RPF, Railway Protection Force. He truly knows how the Railway Board has been functioning over the last few years. So our Honorable Prime Minister has been going downslide on trust factor and perception for the last 4 years. The exposure started with Commonwealth Games. 2G was enormous. After that you had Colgate is huge, and now with who's protecting whom? I think we are probably kidding ourselves. Common man knows who is doing what and why are they covering up. I believe it's just a question of survival. It's no more a question of sensitivities and improprieties. Because they do sink and swim. And if the leader is attacked, then it's in a parliamentary form of government. The moment the leader goes, the entire cabinet goes. It's a cabinet form of government. So therefore, I would think we got to understand that we are continuing to ask.
You're saying they're not going
it's
because then the blame would come on the PM as well.
It's a question of survival of the entire government. It's not a question of sensitivity, because they know the wolf is already at the door. The day the CBI does independent work, there'll be just far too many people, so many wolves losing the sheep clothing.
Mr. Raja, has the responsibility now come to the Prime Minister's doorstep? Would you say that? Because, you know, we've always, again, like I said right at the beginning, talked of him as an honest man with integrity personally. But does that matter anymore when he's presiding over a cabinet that has huge question marks and clouds over it?
We'll have to look at two issues. They are very straight and simple. the law minister interfered in the work of CBI. The Supreme Court, which is the apex court of our country, has come down heavily and it has made very scathing observations. It is an indictment of law minister. Secondly, in the scam that has been reported, which took place in railways, has come to the surface. Some people are being interrogated. Some people have been arrested and they are being interrogated. Whether these are all facts or not, if we say these are all untrue, then there is no argument. If there is an element of truth, these are all true, then who has to take the responsibility? The law minister should take the moral responsibility for violation of propriety in public life or as a minister. Here in the case of Railway Ministry is the largest, one of the largest ministries. After union budget, only that ministry has a separate budget. In such a ministry, such a scam took place. Who has to take the responsibility? The railway minister should take the responsibility. In the absence of these ministers taking any responsibility, then obviously we have to ask the Prime Minister. He is the head of the government. He is the head of the Council of Ministers. And he should own up the moral responsibility. And he should act accordingly. Even the Supreme Court observation is not only an indictment of law minister, it is an indictment of PMO, from which an official went and participated in the meeting with CBI officials. So in a way it is an indictment of Prime Minister himself. So Prime Minister, being head of the government, should own up the responsibility. Since Parliament has been adjourned sine die, now Prime Minister will have to do a lot of answering to the people and to the nation.